Hey everybody, welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where every week we are interviewing the most amazing private practices from all over the United States. Every single week we have someone brand new, a different specialty, and most importantly, a brand new perspective. And so today I have a really awesome special guest for you. I have Miss Lauren Timney. She is the co-founder of Discovery Counseling Services in Merritt Island, Florida. Welcome, Lauren. So happy to have
Hi.
you.
Yeah, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much
Good.
for joining us today. I'm excited to dive in. I'd love to start off with, getting your story. I think, when we come on here and people want to get to know you, we all love to know what is your origin story? What got you here and what made you want to start your own practice?
Yeah, sure. So basically, since I was like 13, um, going through like a pretty traumatic losing my parents, they both had cancer. So taking that on and having to grow up pretty quickly, I always wanted to help others. Like I just didn't know what path I wanted to take. So eventually I decided to go into mental health. So I did that, of course, after having kids. So that was like a little difficult to go to college and all that. But I graduated later in life and then decided one day just what do I want to do with, the mental health aspect of it. So I worked for a few places, a nonprofit with kids, and then I worked at a private practice and then decided one day, yeah, I want to create my own to help. And especially Brevard County, this area is kind of lacking. So I picked this area and went from there and opened up a practice.
That is awesome. What would you
Yeah.
say are maybe some of the most common areas that you treat or find people struggling with? Are there maybe things even too that you especially love to help people with and cope with?
Yeah, of course. So I would say like one of the most common things I find people struggling with right now is anxiety. Like whether it's home related, work related, relationship related, just everyday life. Like I feel like there's yeah, uh, people don't really know how to navigate, right? So like my job is to kind of like help them and teach them coping skills and ways, especially my favorite right now in the past year has been couples. Just because it's like we went through like a whole pandemic where we had to hang out with our partner 24/7. So right after that, I had like a ton of couples not knowing how to like navigate their relationship because they were spending a lot of time together. But I do notice a lot more. It's a lot of work anxiety lately.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. COVID really threw, I think, everything off its rocker. I think everyone in the health and wellness field, really started to do things differently and think differently. And it presented new challenges, things
yes,
that we've, maybe haven't done before. And certainly people have not experienced this before. And so
right.
folks that are in your field had a unique challenge and balance and you're experiencing it at the same time as everyone else, right?
Hmm.
And while you're navigating, you're also helping them navigate. So I think that was a really awesome thing, that people had resources like you to be able to rely
Yeah.
on and to get them through that time because it was a lot, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Definitely for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you talked about it a little bit, but what would you say, makes, your approach different maybe than from someone else that's in your area or other clinicians that are in your field?
So I noticed, so personally myself, I see a therapist. They always say like, oh, like you should, I 100% like you should, because we all go through different things and different, you know, places in our life that we need help with. But I have noticed like the approach I take, I've been doing this 11 years, is to really just engage with my clients. Like I've noticed a lot of my clients have come in that have seen prior therapists and are just kind of like, oh, they just sat there and like nodded and didn't really give me any advice or like what to do. And I just feel like more lost than when I came in here. And sometimes you do, like sometimes I do find that people try therapy and it's like, oh no, it didn't really work or do anything for me. So I try to take the approach of like being really um, honest and not just sit there and nod my head, but like make sure that I give homework and I give feedback and make sure that they're comfortable. Like I try not to like overdress, if that makes sense, and just be like, yeah, come in here. This is a safe space. Please don't feel like you can't wear your pajamas. Like I know that sounds silly, but I do like want everyone to just come in my office space and feel like they're at home.
I love that, and I think it's a good practice what you preach moment. I'm no
Hmm.
different than anyone else. I may have different struggles than you, but I still have struggles nonetheless. And, I need to work on them. Like I tell you that, there's some things in feedback that I think you should work on, or some things that you should maybe think about moving forward. It wouldn't be truthful if I wasn't trying to do the same, right?
Right. Right. And it also is like the stigma for mental health it has improved because I think more and more people do realize like you do need to talk to someone else. Like sometimes our family, our friends, our partners, it's like we have our own issues. Like I don't need to hear yours too. So yeah, I just feel like it's a positive thing and people find it encouraging. And I do show like a lot of empathy as well and no judgment. Like there's no reason to also feel like you're going to someone and then they're judging you. So
Yeah. No,
yeah, that's important.
I love that. And I love, you talk about, dressing down a little bit. And, sometimes, yeah, you can walk into an office and it can feel sometimes sterile, or you're like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, like this person, like, I'm so intimidated now by them.
Yes.
And then it takes the focus off of that person getting the help, and maybe they're more focused on how they are presenting themselves and what they
You're
should
right.
say, and all the shoulds, right? The
Yes.
should that, could have that. Um, and so I think it's nice that you're able to meet people with where they are and kind of bring things a little bit down to earth and be like, this isn't scary. I'm not here, to evaluate you in that kind of
Yeah.
way. I want to help you and understand the traumas and the tribulations that you've gone through in order to help you, but not as a, like I'm really evaluating you and I'm in this suit and it's,
Right.
really
Exactly.
uncomfortable. So I love that. That's a very unique perspective and approach.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Thank
Um,
you.
Something that, I also think is interesting, and I think, you just talked about it, the stigma of mental health. And I think that is
Hmm.
probably one of the number one, maybe misconceptions or feelings that people have towards the mental health field. But there's, of course, a ton of them all over healthcare. I think every specialty, every provider here tells me, oh, people think I do this, and that's not even close to, that's 3% of what I do.
Yeah.
So what would you say for you or some of the other common misconceptions that people think about, therapy or anything else that's in your field?
So I found a lot of times the misconceptions are like people think that they have to wait till they're in crisis to get help. So like I've found that like, you'll get the people that are like, oh gosh, like I can't function and I'm depressed and I'm on the couch and I'm all right. Where it's like it's okay to come to therapy even when you start feeling that anxiousness or depression or and don't even with your kids like I tell all my teenagers and their parents like I'm so glad you're here because you're catching it at a young age because when you become an adult it gets harder like yeah, real life problems, right? When you're in high school it's like I didn't have to worry about TikTok, and I think MySpace was a thing back then, but like people have their phones. You do something silly and it's all over the place. So it's
So
like they have those stressors where when you become an adult, it's what pay your bills, manage your relationship. If you have kids, like now you have to deal with that and like deaths and just a lot of things, losing a job, trying to hopefully not work in a toxic work environment, but I see it. I see all of it. So a misconception is don't wait till it's too late or feel like you can't deal with it.
I really appreciate you saying that, because there is so much more that's going on today, because everything, like you said, is just so public.
Hmm.
And you have more access. which, is beneficial in some ways, but more than often not, it is abused, the access to
Yes.
have something and so quickly. And that changes how we do things, how we think about things. Just the other week, I walked into my gym and I saw, a door on the sauna, or sign on the door of the sauna, and it said, no phones here. And they had an issue with people being on their phones and potentially recording other people. And that's just not something
Mm,
that, like, you would think about, like,
right.
but everything is so public. Like you're at a party and you're this and you just take a simple video, but then there is everyone else being recorded. And so there is so much um that's different today,
Yeah.
than it was in the past. So yeah, I think, don't wait until you got a brick coming through your window and you have a major crisis.
Right.
I think I'm sure a lot of preventative things, okay,
Hmm.
I know how to cope with this situation better. Um,
Sure.
so I think that's a really, really good idea. And kind of speaking of tips, since you just gave such a really good one, I'd love to ask you, what are maybe a few easy tips or common homework or advice you might give, a client or patient of yours? And
Yeah.
I'll let you answer that first. And it's kind of a two-prong pro tip question. So
Okay.
I'll let you start with some of the clients that you see.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the things I would probably recommend is like checking on yourself daily, like asking yourself, taking 5 minutes and just assessing like how's my mental health, like how am I feeling today, what do I need. Like a lot of the times we get so wrapped up in our daily lives we become complacent, so it's
Yeah.
like wake up in the morning, go to work, come home, make dinner, work out, whatever you do, and then watch your TV show and go to sleep. And then it's like you find yourself maybe a week later, months later, then having these anxieties or depressions because you neglected yourself and your mental health. Another thing, um, like a positive self-talk. Like I talk to myself sometimes in the grocery store and I have to like catch myself like, oh, oops. So just even like words of affirmation, positive talk to yourself. I use a lot of sticky notes, and just write down like things you like about yourself if you're struggling with self-esteem. Journaling is another really big tool that I do with my clients, just because I love the journaling because you can journal for a week, maybe a month, maybe 6 months, and you start to feel better. So you go back and you can look and say, oh, here's the things I changed, or here's what I did differently, and or even do it like 5 years from now. Let's say you're out of therapy and you want to go back and just say, okay, what were some of the tips I took from my therapist? And you're able to kind of like redo them if you wanted to.
Yep. You know what?
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Some people do talk about journaling and, words of affirmation, but they don't really say why, you know.
Hmm.
We know the result is to ultimately feel better, but I like what you said. This is a data point. And
Hmm.
I love data. And this is a data point of where you were and where you are now. And
Yes.
because you can have a bad day and you can be like, it's all bad. It's all
Yeah.
bad. I have not improved. This is not
Yes.
working. And then you can go back and look at your data points and actually say, wait a minute, I think I'm just having a bad day or
Right.
a bad week. But look at the months of the really amazing progress. And we can even just see where I was in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
So I love that is a really good and valid point for
Yeah.
journaling to just see the progression of how you are actually doing. I
Hmm.
think that's important. I think oftentimes we don't really know. Um,
No, and we want a quick fix. So it's like, like that quick, like, I want to feel better right now, instantly. And sometimes it's not there. You have to go back.
Absolutely. So I love doing Provider Spotlight because we come across just these small little golden nuggets like this,
Yeah.
something that is seemingly maybe so easy or you've heard it before, but
Hmm.
we're here to get new perspectives. And so, another question that I have for you is, kind of on the same lines of a pro tip, because you have a great business and you have a really great practice and you're doing really great work in your community. For the folks that are listening in that also have their own practices that are other healthcare and, practice owners, what are maybe some pro tips for them? Folks that maybe they have been in practice for a long time or maybe have just started. And there might be something that you do every day for yourself,
Hmm.
your business, and you're like, I wouldn't survive without this. This one thing is amazing. So I would love to know what the pro tip would be for your fellow colleagues and business owners.
Okay, so like I feel like if you're just starting out, just start small and grow steady. Like I think with this field, especially, um, networking, like just getting out there and meeting people in your community. I did a lot of my daughter, both my kids were in sports. Now they're 17 and 18. One just graduated high school, but in that time, it was like just getting your name out there because people don't always read about you, but it's like your professionalism and the way you carry yourself and your character and your reputation also play a role in, I feel like, a business, owning a business, right? So not only getting your name out there, but getting what you stand for and what you care about. And my practice is very well known as that I care for people. Like it's not just like I a revolving door, right? Like I make sure my clients are happy and my workspace is very peaceful and I get that all the time. Like, oh my gosh, it's so peaceful in here. Yes, thank you. I want it to be like the beach. So yeah, and then just trusting yourself. Like I said, they're not only people aren't just drawn to your credentials, but how you've lived life experiences too. Like they want to hear like how did you get through your struggles or without talking too much about yourself, but just when people understand that you've been through similar things, it's easier. I feel like it's hard to, yeah, you can put yourself in someone else's shoes, but sometimes it's very beneficial if they really know that you've been through life, deaths, divorce, things like that, where maybe someone else hasn't. And I'm not saying you should go through all that to like, be able to talk to people, but it is important that you share with your community when you can and get out there and support your community. I feel like that's important when growing any business.
Yeah, absolutely. You want
Yeah.
to be in touch with the people that surround you
Yeah.
to make all of you better and
Yeah.
make your community better. And I think that is a wonderful thought. And it is nice, I think when people are seeking help, they want to feel heard. And sometimes, for that individual person, not always, but if they can resonate with someone that they know has been through something similar and they feel that, um,
Yeah.
I think that's a connection point for them. So I think that's totally valid and awesome. And I'm so thankful for the time that you spent with us today and all of the golden nuggets that you were able to give us. And, it was a pleasure learning about you and your practice and all that you do for your community. And just before we leave off today, I would love if you could tell everyone who's listening, where folks can reach out, where they can message you, call you, or whatever the best form of contact to learn more would be. That would be great if you could tell us all.
Yeah. Sure, of course. So you can find my website just typing in Discovery Counseling Services LLC in Merritt Island, Florida. Our website is www.discoverycounselservicesmi.com. And on there, you can learn about our services. We do everything from individual to I do couples intensives. Those are really awesome. Um, and we also are on Facebook and Instagram. That's also under Discovery Counseling Services LLC, Merritt Island. And then you can give us a call at 321-978-5122.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lauren, so much, and we hope to have you on again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.